It's the Tezlom Podcast, and I want to say I'm going to try and do a different type of podcast this time, but I want to introduce Adam anyway. So, Adam, please just introduce yourself first of all, mate.
Yeah, different type of podcast. I've been watching all the other ones prepping, so...
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to do it different or not, because I feel like we'll probably cover what I'll cover you anyway, but just please introduce everyone. Now, this is the sneaky bit about you, what I love about you. Tell everyone what you do for everything, every business you have.
Yeah, that's a good one. You've been planning that one. My name's Adam Lovelock. I suppose mainly people know me for Coconut.
Yeah.
So I work for Coconut Marketing, own director of the business.
Yeah.
We're obviously a franchise marketing company. Coconut's actually been going 20 years, but me and Paul have been involved for, I think, 7 or 8 years. The other businesses, so I work 95% of my time in Coconut, but over the years, I think the nature of working in franchising is we just come across loads of really cool businesses, opportunities. So over time, we have invested in and part own other franchise companies as well. So
this is the bit that I don't think anyone knows about.
I think it must have been 2019. We were part of a team that brought the franchise Rhythm Time.
Yeah.
Just before the pandemic, which was unbelievably good timing. And we also, so Paul has for quite a while, but we also own some in-express franchises. So in theory, I'm a kind of supplier, franchisor, and franchisee.
Yeah, you are.
However, I'm not really, because most of my time is dedicated as a supplier.
So would you call yourself an investor?
No. Not in that kind of terms. I suppose technically we probably are.
Mate, you should have like a really cool picture of you leaning on a Lamborghini on your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah, it's definitely not like
you
that.
should be like franchisee, franchisor, investor, Ned.
I think I don't really... it was a great question, because I don't really talk about...
Yeah, you don't. That's why I went straight in.
Yeah, it's really good. I don't talk about that mainly because it's not really what I do day to day. I have some involvement in those businesses. And
do you not think it's... Like, from my perspective, buying from you... and we've done business before, I don't know if I show more respect for you, but I definitely think you understand what I go through more, which then makes me want to I have more appetite to do business with you, knowing that you are potentially a franchisor, are potentially a franchisee, and understand other people's businesses.
Yeah, I suppose that's my caution for doing it, because I don't class myself as either a franchisor or a franchisee, because I'm not working in those businesses enough to be. So although I understand the kind of pain points of a franchisor, because I'm part of that business, I'm not actively working in it, and I think that's why I don't talk about it. It's not that I'm trying to keep a massive secret.
I was so happy, I was so surprised when you told me. I was like, what the fuck, I can't believe he does that.
And there's been a few other things like over the years as well. I just think I love franchising. I think in general I just love business. And when you're in franchising as a supplier, in fact, if you look back at the history, the number of suppliers in franchising who end up being a franchisor or a franchisee, it's really, really high.
Oh, is it?
Loads. I could think of loads of suppliers or even people that have worked in franchising for a franchisor that then invest in a franchise as well. Because I think when you're around it all the time and you love business and you're working with franchise businesses, you just see so many opportunities. And it's really... It would be really hard not to get involved. I think that's how it came about.
Can I drag you back a little bit? How do you get into, like, because it's quite... I don't know if we should go right back to like growing up or not, but what I'm trying to ask the question is, how did you get into... What did you do before Coconut?
Something completely different, to be fair.
Mate, let's go back. Fuck it. Right, so... I always find marketing an unusual thing, isn't it? Like, marketing's... I've been literally talking to a marketing company, not you, about another one, but it's about something different. So it's marketing is like you think slightly differently than the customer, don't you? For the customer, do you not think? Or do you...
Well, marketing is actually an art, isn't it? So I did a marketing degree, and it's a Bachelor of Arts degree.
Oh, is it really?
Whereas most other business functions is a Bachelor of Science degree. So if you do accounting, it's a science.
Right.
I suppose that's a big difference, isn't it? Like when you do a marketing degree and you do exams, there isn't a right or wrong answer, but there would be in accounting, wouldn't there? Like so it is an art. I think people with a marketing background have a slightly, probably the other side of the brain than a lot of people in business who are more numbers focused or operation focused. So I think that's the main difference.
It's like a limbic brain thought process, isn't it? It's like it's an it intrigues me. I wish I'd done more marketing stuff when I was younger, and I always, because I do like, it's a bit like sales, or like the theory behind sales, and I feel like that's a similar sort of theory but slightly different with marketing, isn't it? You've got to think about the emotive response, haven't you, to what's being put out there. It's the same with sales. You've got to think about the emotive response you're having a conversation with someone.
Yeah, I would say you're a good marketer though. Like the content you put out, the thought you put behind it, the very nature you're doing this, like you're obviously thinking like a marketer. Yeah. And actually marketing and sales are pretty connected, aren't they?
Yeah.
Like, I see marketing as a function to make sales easier. Yeah. But I'm not sure they're disconnected.
Yeah. Interesting, mate. I can't. Mate, forget. Right, okay. We've done what you do for a job now. Let's scrape it back. Where were you born?
In Winchester, in Hampshire.
I don't know Winchester at all, mate.
No, so I live in a town called Andover, which is like 20 minutes away from Winchester. Used to be the capital of England, Winchester.
Really?
Yeah. A very long time ago. Part of me wants to Google to check that's definitely correct.
Is it a nice area?
Yeah, Winchester's lovely.
Is it a nice bit of the
really
world?
Nice. Yeah, it's really nice. And I live in a town called Andover, which is like 20-minute drive away from Winchester.
And we mum and dad brought up around there. Were you brought up?
Yeah.
Have you got a big family or anything?
Yeah, so I was an only child.
Right.
Grew up in Andover, like a lot of family around Andover.
Yeah.
Andover is one of those kind of towns where it's a pretty small town,
yeah.
and people tend to stay there.
Yeah.
And they might move away, but then you kind of get drawn back into it, which is exactly what happened to me.
Yeah.
But it's really nice. Like my wife's Australian, and she finds it a bit odd because like you go to the supermarket and I'll be in there for hours because you literally just bump into everyone you went to school with.
Is that because you talk a lot, or just because you know a lot of people?
Just because you know so many people. It's that kind of town, and probably talk a lot. But it's like I really like that side of living in that kind of place. But for a lot of people, it probably seems a bit odd because like everyone knows everyone. But everyone I grew up with, I still see. So like my 10 or 12 best friends, I went all through school with. We were in the same year. Now our wives are all friends, our kids are all friends. And I kind of like that, but it is a bit of a small town thing probably.
Yeah, it's mate, so I'm the complete opposite. So I have hardly any friends in terms of a circle of friends or friends who I went to school with. And sometimes I do get a little bit envious of that because I feel like it's such a nice thing to have sometimes. But then sometimes I'm like, nah, I don't need it. It's a funny one for me. I just hated school, hated everyone I went to school with, and then left school and never really had any friends from there. And then the friends I do have now are generally actually in business.
Yeah.
It's a funny one for me.
See, I was opposite and really lucky. Like, I absolutely loved school.
Were you good at school, mate? You're quite an intelligent chap, aren't you? Were you quite academic or not? Not
really, I don't think. Did okay. Like, I wouldn't say I was not, but I just loved it because I had all my friends.
Yeah.
I would say they're probably some of the best years of my life, actually.
School. I love that, man.
Like, I look back on it and just love it. And I think because I'm still in the same circle of friends, we see each other, we talk about school and what we did like all the time.
Yeah, good.
Which is great. Like,
yeah, it's such a plus, that, isn't it? Like, it's such a plus. I feel like your childhood years have such an impact on you, and when you're older, you don't realise until you get older. Yeah.
Well, my son's just started senior school, and like I just hope he has the same experience I had. Yeah. Because you just, for me, I just met lifelong friends, and I loved it.
So you went to primary, secondary school, and then did you know what you wanted to do, mate? Did you always sort of? Because I feel like marketing must be one of the things you fall into, or did you know what you wanted to do? Because you don't know what marketing is.
No, I definitely didn't know when I left school, and I think I didn't know what I wanted to do, but I always knew I wanted to run a business.
Okay. And were your mum and dad entrepreneurial?
So my dad probably running a business at that stage of my
So
my life. Yeah, so I probably
did you spend some time in his business?
Yeah, a little bit.
What did he do?
So he was fitted out offices, office fit out. And he done some really big projects up in London and stuff. And I was around. Obviously, him running a business, but I just always did. Like, I don't know why. I just always had a thing where if someone asked me what I wanted to do, it was like I want to run a business. I don't really know why. It's weird, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I went to college and studied business studies, and within that, you kind of go through every aspect of marketing. Like, to be honest, you're not learning anything which you probably take on, but you do a bit of accounting and HR and operations and economics, and then one of the modules was marketing, and I was like, actually, like, I find the other stuff a little bit boring, but marketing is quite cool. Yeah. And at that point, I was like, right, okay, I think that's the direction I want to go in. So at that time, I think if you want to get into marketing, you then had to go to university. So I went to university, studied marketing, and that was kind of how I.
Did you enjoy uni?
Uni, yeah. For all the wrong reasons, to be fair. But I loved it. Yeah. I'm really fortunate that met loads of like lifelong friends at university that I'm still really close with. Yeah. I loved it. It was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I can feel that from you. I feel like you me and you when we first met. I can't remember. It's a grey area for me now, but. You've got quite a nice calmness around you, and I feel like you're quite a patient person, and I think that's from having a good upbringing and a good bunch of friends. I feel like you'll have got that. I don't know what that skill is, isn't it, by creating friendships that way? Yeah,
and to be with university, like although I went to uni and I loved it, I wouldn't. I'm kind of torn between whether it's something I would advise my kids to do. Like, I think over the years it's become less important in terms of building a career. Yeah. I think at that time, to get into marketing, it kind of made sense because I lived in Andover. There was no way.
Did you feel like there's some stuff you learned at university that you used straight away into your job, or do you think you could do something different?
No. I don't think... Genuinely, I don't think there's anything I really learnt at university which I would be using today. I think it's more the skill of... I think the skill of university is you have to teach yourself how to learn because you have lectures, but you're not being taught, if that makes sense. Yeah. So there's probably certain skills like that, but... No, there's nothing really from it, which I'm...
Yeah, I feel like from people I've spoken to about university, and I've got a good bunch of friends now, but they're from a different school, a different area, and a couple of them went to university. I think now, present day, you'd have to be a professional. I think like you'd have to go on to be a doctor or an accountant or a solicitor or a psychologist or a counsellor, things like that. I think you need to go to uni for that now. Yeah. Like you said, I just don't know how... maybe an English degree would go down nowadays.
Yeah, I think that's the problem. Is now there's so many, you can do a degree in anything, and I know loads of people that have been to university, done a slightly left field degree, and you don't really have anything to then apply it to when you leave. Yeah, and then
the other one is like the other side of it is what I was going to say is, but it might teach you about studying and commitment and working towards something. It teaches that side of it, but then some of them degrees are so relaxed about how, so then I think you lose everything. I don't think you get the bit about having to stick to timelines and self-motivation, the resilience piece, and then the culture you create with all your friends and stuff, because I feel like that's part and parcel of it as well, isn't it? But then these other flexible degrees, so you're doing a degree that doesn't necessarily lead to a profession, and you don't get the other part of it either, so you've not got the work commitments. So I feel like there's just grey area. What you kind of doing it for, apart from your own self-preservation, I guess.
I think the one thing which I think, like, if my kids want to go to university, that probably the biggest thing is actually the life skills. So you're saying about like being able to make friends, and you learn that at university. Like, I remember my parents dropped me off on my first day into a shared accommodation house where I didn't know anyone. You literally they drove off, my mum's crying, and I'm like, right, that's it, I'm here now. And you kind of have your bags, and then one by one, all these other people start rocking up. You're like, I've got to live with these. You're not just getting to know them or studying with them. You're literally living with 9 other people in this massive shared house. And I think that's the biggest life skill. And then over the time, you're just living in lots of different houses with people, and you're meeting people in courses and stuff. Like it was. I will always remember that first day, because you get dropped off, and you're like, wow, what am I going to do now? Didn't really know how to cook, wash, any of that kind of stuff as well?
Yeah, I think that's what I'm alluding to. You
Yeah.
learn them so I remember going to Jesmond quite a bit in Newcastle because my mates all went. Well, Eddie and everyone who that extra different bunch of groups. See, I don't speak to them anymore so much. Eddie, I've just started talking to again the other day, but I remember going to Newcastle in my 20s and thinking to myself, oh my God, these are what know each other now. They're all lifelong friends because they just got put into a house together, but they didn't know each other beforehand.
Yeah, it was brilliant for that. And I mean, like, as I say, studying was secondary to everything else that went on at university for me until the last year. And then I really kind of thought, well, I can't waste 3 years of my life, so I really need to work hard to make sure I come away with a good degree, which I did in the end.
Yeah, good.
But the first 2 years were a bit of a blur. I think I probably failed a few modules I had to redo in the third year and stuff. But what was really cool with my degree is it had a gap year. So I had to do a work placement gap year.
All right, cool.
And I was
just going to ask you, how did you get into it, sort of thing?
Yeah. So you had to go and essentially for yourself find a gap year placement within marketing. You couldn't graduate unless you found a kind of active thing. So I was lucky enough to get a position for Virgin, working for Virgin Money in Norwich.
Mate, that's a winner, that, isn't it?
It was really cool. Like I think at that time, if you're looking to get into marketing, like there probably wasn't a better brand to go and work for.
Yeah, I bet.
So I moved to Norwich, didn't know anyone in Norwich, and when you've just been living with all your mates at university, and then suddenly you're going like 4 hours a different direction, living by yourself, with some crazy woman who had loads of weird cats and stuff. Like it was a bit of a weird experience, but I had 6 months working at Virgin, and at the time Branson had just brought back into it, so he was there quite a bit. I met him a few times in like the marketing office. He's like such a lovely guy. And that was just an amazing experience. Really cool.
Mate,
it was really cool.
Yeah, that is good. I can see such nice foundations you've had, haven't you, to build your career in the business. I can see why, now knowing you a little bit more, I can see why you're so, I don't even know what the right word is, but I can see why you're successful at it. I can understand why you like that. Yeah,
that was a really cool time. And there were loads of stuff from that time at Virgin, which
Can you pinpoint anything that sort of sticks to you?
I suppose at the time, they were... I think he was a pioneer of like workplace culture. Actually, cause this is going back to 2005 probably. When I don't think 18 years ago, workplace culture was such a thing, not within an office.
I think the word culture is a bit of a buzzword, isn't it, over the last few years? But I think it's always been there, but someone just gave it a name. Yeah.
But it was, at the time, I remember the offices were on a big estate, and no one had to wear office wear to the office, and we just looked weird. Like everyone that worked for Virgin just looked quirky because they were turning up in whatever they wanted to wear when everyone else was in suits and stuff like that. All the food was free. There weren't set working hours. Like there was loads of really cool stuff, which now is fairly normal within those kind of organisations. But at the time, it would have been completely different. Got to go to one of his barbecues. So every year he invites all the staff to his house for a big barbecue. And he does it for every one of the Virgin brands. I think he does it over a week. And on one of the days, all the Virgin Money team got to go, which was really cool. I mean, it's not him cooking a barbecue. It's more like an event in his back garden. It was really cool.
Makes you feel envious a little bit if you could do that yourself, doesn't it? Like it inspires me, stuff like that. I think, maybe we could do more. But I feel like huge companies like Virgin, Facebook, all that sort of stuff came up with these ideas, and then over time, smaller companies go, well, I can afford to do that. And we can do this, and we can do that, and I feel it's really nice, isn't it? Like we're talking about Coconut the other day, and you're all remote and stuff like that, but then you have an office still that you can go in and stuff. And we were just talking about the different dynamics of how other businesses work. It's really nice to see, isn't it? Like I think times are changing, sort of thing. Yeah,
not always. I'm not sure they've changed for the positive post COVID. Personally, like for you guys, like everyone's based here, aren't they? And I still think that's really important for like a company culture. We do have offices at Coconut, but most people can work from home or work from the office, and we make sure we get together as a team regularly. But you do lose a bit of a spark when everyone's not together, especially in a marketing agency. So I don't know how the world's going to play out over the next few years. I think more companies will go back to office working.
I feel like the thing is, so I might regret saying this live on a podcast, but my current state of mind with it all is that it was people felt a load of freedom by being able to work at home. You can get the plaster around, you could go and walk your dog, you can meet your mate for a quick wine, you can get up a little bit later, you can fucking leave a little bit earlier. Like, I've got a few friends who still work at home, and I'm not going to mention the names, but they do take, they take the piss.
Yeah.
And I think like, they're telling me, and I'm laughing and joking along with them, and I'm thinking to myself, you're robbing left, right and centre here. Like, you're robbing left, right. So there's that side of me. And what I do think is that over time, businesses will have new flesh blood coming into the business, and they will have to pull rank on them rules, because people who've not had a proper job before won't adhere to the rules, and they need coaching and need car park chats, don't they? Car park chats, cuddles in the corridor. Those are the things that people are going to miss. And I feel as this new generation of people come in, the people running the businesses are going to have to pull rank and say, nah, you're going to have to be back. You're going to have to come back in or spend more time here, because these people aren't being trained properly, and we're going to end up with a bunch of people who kind of come out of school, had the 9 to 5 in school, had the uniform, went to like had all these things that helped them do the job and do what they needed to do, but then get into a place where everything's just do what you want. Well, they're going to do what they want, aren't they? And I don't know. I don't know if that's a good recipe. I don't know how that's going to fit with the rest of the world, but I feel like maybe I've got an old head on my shoulders as well. I don't know.
No, I agree. I think if someone, I don't know, comes out of university and they go and work for a business and they're working remotely from day one, they're never going to feel as much part of the culture. I bet there's people that work for companies for a couple of years now and never met anyone. And there's only so much you can do online. Yeah. And like you say, the chats you have when you're making a coffee and the relationships you build, and actually you speak to people that love their jobs. It's mainly because they love the people they work with more than the actual work itself. And something in there feels a bit... I actually think it's going to be a positive for franchising, actually, just going a bit like off cuff. But I think there will be a day when businesses start saying, right, guys, like, you're coming back in the office. And you look at people like Google, like some of the big companies are starting to do it.
Yeah. I know Indeed have done it, haven't they? I think Indeed invited everyone back in. I don't know if they're all back in, but...
I think it's starting to happen. I've noticed when I've been to London recently, it's starting to get a bit busier. Yeah. And I think that could be the thing that drives the interest in franchising, because I think how many people who are working from home never want to commute again and go back to the office, when they're suddenly going, right, guys, like,
you've got to come back.
You've got to come back in.
Yeah.
People are going to be like, well, I don't want to. I would want to carry on working like I do. Yeah. I think that could be over the next few years something that helps franchising.
Yeah, you might be right there. I always think as well is like, if I had to do a 2-hour commute every day, I would try and find a job a little bit closer if I had to. Like, I would just think about more local stuff for that. But then again, if it isn't there, it isn't there, is it? But I categorically remember having a conversation with Charlene and saying, we need to be near a nursery, we need to be near a school, and we need to be near work, because it just makes life easier. Like, my nursery's 1 minute down the road, the school's 1 minute the other direction, my office is 1 minute the other way. It's like, it just makes life easier, you know. Like,
do you drive into the office?
Yeah. Should run. It's about a 7-minute walk, and I just drive, but I suppose sometimes I'll need a car. Yeah, and go and pick the kids up and stuff. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, that working from home. I still hate, like, what I don't like is like, you see people taking a picture of the MacBook in the back garden with a drink in the middle of the day saying, oh my God, this is amazing work from home. And I feel like saying to that person, have you ever been to A&E? And if you keep promoting that this is good, the next 20-odd-year-old girl who thinks, actually, I'm going to go and work at your place because you work in the back garden, and doesn't become a nurse, because all you do is make your job the best thing since sliced bread. But we all know it isn't. Yeah. And if you carry on promoting it that way, we're going to end up in a situation where lots of people are doing working from home jobs, and we're going to end up people no on the front line. Yeah. And that does scare me. No firemen, no police, no binmen, no... nurses, no like people who have to work on the front line every day, like no hairdressers. They're the people that fundamentally day to day get us all by. They're like that's a bit like happiness, and this is getting a little bit deeper. It's like, happiness isn't a 2-week holiday once a year. It isn't like something that you feel happy for a full day. Happiness is when you open the front door at home. Happiness is when you shut your door, come into the office. Happiness is the conversations you have with your mates on WhatsApp throughout the day. It's the bits that's in between the day-to-day of what you're doing, is if you're happy with that. It's not like a big project of something that happens. You find joy from going on holiday, you find joy from getting married, you find joy from a birthday and all that sort of stuff, but it's the day-to-day interludes of life. And I feel like that's the same with working from home and having a job is like, people need to be aware that it's not just, oh yeah, that one picture I put with my laptop in the back garden. It's like, how do you feel day to day about your job? And how do you feel about this business? How is this business going to grow and who's involved? I know that's a really fun, weird, clouded up message, but that's what I feel like. I feel like we need to be really careful about how we go forward in life. Of everyone I'm 40, what's the 20-year-olds of this world thinking like now is, what does that look like for them?
It's really a good point. And every job ad you see now, it will start with, you can work from home or hybrid or whatever it is. Yeah. Like it's almost like you can't recruit unless that's like the main part of the role.
Yeah, and like you're a bad employee if you don't do it. And I think people just need to be really careful how they go about doing that. I feel like making it out that you're a bad employer or it's a bad job, or if you don't do hybrid, I'm like, mate, that's a serious. There's so many jobs out there that you can't. Dentist, like there's a fucking lot of jobs out there that basically get everyone through the world in life.
Yeah.
And if if you had toothache, if you started having toothache now, mate, like you can't concentrate. You got toothache, you got earache. Wait a minute, we've got no dentists available because everyone wants to work from home because they don't want to go and be marketeers, or they want to go and be a social media manager, or they want to fucking, I don't know, whatever, an accountant or something like that, and they want to work from home. That's a bad place to be.
Yeah, AI might save us with that. It might take over all the working from home jobs, and suddenly everyone has to go into those kind of things. So who knows? That could happen. To be fair.
It's interesting AI, isn't it? I like ChatGPT to write me a couple of posts now and again, but at the same time, they're always emotionless as well, and you end up rewriting the whole thing you post anyway.
Yeah. It's pretty scary. We found some ways to use it where you can kind of get over that actually. I mean, one amazing thing, like you could. Kind of again going off tangent, but I've used it for a few things. If you've done a video and you get the transcriptions of this conversation and then ask ChatGPT to create a LinkedIn post from it, it's unbelievable how much it will just go through everything and summarize it. And yeah, it's pretty scary, to be fair. I'm not as much as it amazes me, I'm very much worried about my children's futures and how it could play out. It feels a bit of a Wild West crazy situation. But
what I was thinking, what hit me the other day was like maths and English might just go out the window completely because you don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
Because you can literally just talk to your PC. I'm sure you can just press a button and go, ChatGPT, write me an email to this franchisee. This is the email they sent to me. Can you just write an email response for me?
Yeah. 100%. I think we're only a few years away from most of our daily working lives being relatively automated. Yeah. And how much brain capacity is everyone going to use when they're just relying upon computers to do all of that kind of stuff?
I don't know, mate.
It actually really worries me. I just think of my kids, and it's like, actually, in 20 years' time, what's the world going to be like? But
I don't know.
There's a whole deep conversation that one.
But then it's like 1995, was it, when computers came out in 1998? Was that a bit scary for everyone else then? I can't remember. I was a kid. I'm sure you were. So it's like, I remember thinking it was amazing. But there must have been some adults thinking, oh my God, what's this going to be like? So are we just being adults thinking, oh, what it's going to be like?
Yeah, possibly. I think it's just the pace of change now. Because it's actually computers learning and creating the change. Like it's literally like the Terminator. We're being taken over by machines, and the pace of that, I think, will just outstrip any pace of tech development we've ever seen. And if it's used in a controlled way, I think there's so many benefits for everyone. But it's just, at what point do we as humans rely upon technology to do the stuff that we should be using our brains to do? And
does that, it kind of cross-reference a little bit back to working from home again. You're always going to need that human-to-human contact. I just feel like you're always... So we're getting a new CRM system at the minute, and I was like, we did everything remotely, and the lad was really... And I was like, mate, but I'm not going to do business with you unless I meet you. I'm just not going to do business with you. You can try all you want, you can show me as many demos, but I want to meet you. And that was just... I feel like that'll never leave me, and I hope it never leaves everyone. I feel like there's got to be some human-to-human contacts at some point.
I think that's actually like that. Like, so for me, and I can tell you're the same. Like, I get energy by being around other people.
Yeah, 100%.
And I found, like, since COVID, I found COVID really hard working from home, and then since COVID, a lot of the guys like working remotely. So I have days where it might be me and Mark or a couple of people in the office. And when I'm there by myself, it's just like, whoa, as soon as someone comes in, I just feel my energy like go back up again. So I don't know.
It's because you've actually got to do something.
yeah, that's true. But I don't know if everyone's like that. I don't know if everyone does need other people to get energy. I'm not sure.
Yeah, then if you're like, I want to creep into this podcast has just gone off a fucking tangent. I don't care. Is the purpose bit, and like, then do people lose purpose because they not got that? Like, if you had to do 2 weeks working on your own in the office, I feel like by the end of the 2 weeks you'd be kind of like, fuck this, I'm not doing anything at the minute. So kind of lose your purpose. Let's try and get back to you. So university, Virgin was obviously a mega stepping stone. Went back to uni, finished uni. And then what happened then, mate? How did you get a job in marketing?
So I was at Virgin for 6 months, just quickly going back to that. And then it was only a 6-month placement. And then I did the second half of that year working for a company in Andover called Armchair Answer Call. They're a telephone answering company, which weirdly were bought by Symphony.
No way.
Yeah, but so at the time, Armchair and Moneypenny were the 2 big telephone answering companies. And I worked for them for the last 6 months, and as I was going into my third year, they offered me a job before going into my third year, saying, when you graduate, come back as our marketing manager, which was like a dream.
Yeah, amazing.
And they paid me through my third year as well. So like it was like the dream ticket, essentially. I got very lucky with that. So I went to work for Armchair for a couple of years. And weirdly, like, so essentially they do exactly what Symphony do. And I know some of the guys that like bought out Armchair and are at Symphony, and so a weird connection to franchising, which, So I worked at Armchair for a couple of years. When I was at Armchair, I met a guy there called Adam Knight. I don't know if you've met Adam.
No, but I know we buy his CRM.
Yeah. So Adam was at Armchair, so he was working there as well. We got chatting, and then essentially we kind of like, wow. He was very techy, he was building websites and stuff. I wanted to start a business. Weirdly, it's to come back to it, I wasn't going to say it, but the first business we started was actually building wedding websites for people. So at the time, no one had a website for their wedding. It's actually quite a thing now, isn't it? I don't know if you've been to weddings and people have it. And I was like, wow, you can build websites. I reckon people should have a website if they're getting married. And we'd go around loads of wedding fairs, and we built...
Wait a minute, are you telling me you're the person who created website weddings, do you think?
Well,
could potentially be.
If I wasn't the guy that followed through with it, which was a silly mistake. But everyone thought we were crazy. It's like, no one wants a website if they're getting married, and we were like, wow, no, you can have your guest list, and like you can have your gift list on it, and there's all these different opportunities of what you could do. And so we went around, but at the time we didn't have the technology behind it, so like we were literally just charging someone to build a website, and we built a few, but it kind of dwindled away. No one was that interested at the time. 10 years on, there's like huge businesses now where you can build your own wedding website and stuff. So there might have been other people doing it, but I'll claim it. That was me. So we talked about other businesses we could do, and we started an email marketing business using someone else's software. And fast forwarding through that, we then decided to develop our own software and called Astonish Email. And it took us like a couple of years. And at that point, then I left Armchair and we started working, doing that full time. And I'm trying to think of like the year this would have been, but essentially we went out and got investment into that business. So we were like a software startup.
How'd you get investment in something like that? Did you have to do a business plan or something?
Yeah, so we kind of thought, when you're building a software company like that, I mean, we had nothing behind us really. And we're like, the only way we're ever going to really get this off the ground is to get some proper investment into it. So we started looking around. It happened really quickly. I remember I was at Glastonbury, I don't know what year this was, but quite a long time ago, and Adam rung me on a Saturday going, we're in front of like the venture capital guys on Monday. I'm like, mate, I'm not coming back from Glastonbury till Monday. And he's like, well, you're gonna have to come back. So I remember like coming back on the Sunday, and I don't know if you've been to a festival, but you feel horrific like afterwards. And on the Monday, getting the train up to London to present essentially like a Dragon's Den type pitch, I suppose, if you like. It didn't really feel like it at the time, but it was that kind of thing. So we had to present in front of like some investment directors, and we got the investment. So, which was at the time really, really cool. But it was probably actually the start of the downfall of that business. Although the business didn't kind of go under, it was a really like turbulent, difficult period, really hard.
How come? What happened?
It's just really getting investment into a business. So you start a business that you love, you're passionate about, you have aims and stuff, and you've got all that excitement. We then went and got some investors in, and they kind of appoint a couple of directors onto your board, and suddenly it just changed. Like you've got these targets you've got to hit. The reality was that the way we planned to build the business, it would never have worked. Like you could have pumped never-ending amounts of money into it, but I just don't think it would, because we were trying to sell an email marketing platform for £25 a month. Yet we didn't have the money to go and get the hundreds of customers you'd need to actually build the turnover in a business. And actually our competition with people like MailChimp, who you could use for free. So we had people using it for free, and the whole model was really hard. And the investment directors, it just started getting pressured, because like you're burning cash each month. You've got these guys who you don't really know, but you've got to have a monthly meeting with. And it was just, it wasn't a nice period.
I've been in a similar situation, but I pulled out of it, and I thought that as well, because I don't have anyone to report to, and we don't do that sort of thing. I always find that would be an unusual space to be in. All of a sudden, having something that's your baby, your dream, you put everything into it, and then you've got report to someone who's got no emotional tie to it apart from where's the figures coming from.
Yeah.
How did you handle that, mate? Was it a tough time?
Yeah, really bad actually, because I think that, so kind of going back, my dream was always to start a business and run it, and then to be involved in like a software startup, and then to go and get investment. Like at that point, you're like,
mate, you must have been on the moon.
Yeah, we were, but I think part of me I never had complete confidence that we would be able to do it, just because of the market and the competition and stuff. But once we kind of got 6 months and a year in, and we weren't hitting the targets, the meetings got really hard. And actually, I remember in one of the directors, he actually got really like quite aggressive, and he called me like a little wanker in the meeting. And I was just like, this must be how businesses run. You get all this pressure, and you've got these kind of people putting pressure onto you, and I just fell out of love of it, to be honest. I remember getting the train home that day, just like,
I'm done with this.
It doesn't even feel like your own business anymore, because you've got external people. So Astonish is actually still running, so we just kind of had to completely change, because we were burning cash. We had to get to like 1,000 users paying 25 quid a month to get to the point. We kind of realised that we were just never going to be able to do that, going down that model. Funny enough, we knew that from the start and wanted to kind of pivot a bit early on, but the investment directors were like, no, you can't do that. You've got to keep, you need to get to this target. So we pivoted, and this was how I got into franchising, funny enough. So at the time, we had 3 users.
Can I just stop you?
Yeah.
How did you mentally deal with all that, mate? Can you remember how you got through it at all? Or did you just feel very down, or did you do anything to get yourself back off the cart? Were you married at that point, Mrs.? That's the bit that intrigues me, is like, that's a pretty tough thing to go through, isn't it, mate? You start something up, it becomes your baby, you get investment, and then it don't go pear-shaped. How did you deal with that day to day?
Probably not brilliant at the time. I think I'm naturally like a really positive person.
Yeah, you are.
And I think even through that, I was probably quite positive that I would somehow make it work. Yeah. And we kind of did, actually, because the business did survive, and it is still running and still has users, etc. But it was really, really tough. I think I'm also a people pleaser. So the fact we had these investment directors from London coming down who were involved in this business and this business, I just felt I was failing, really. Yeah. And it's taken me a long time actually after that, because it essentially, although we kept it going, it was a failure in terms of we didn't achieve what the plan was, I suppose. And I fell out of love of that, and also, I suppose, because my dream was always to run a business, I kind of fell out of love of that dream a little bit. I didn't know if I really wanted to continue running the business.
Tarnished it for you, didn't it, a little bit?
It did, yeah, because my then impression of what my childhood dream was this is really shit.
This is horrible.
I've got these investors, and we got these targets, and we're not going to do it, and all those different kind of things. So it was hard. It was probably around the time of getting married. Yeah. So I think I'd been married about a year. We would have had our first Charlie was probably born around that sort of time as well. So there was a lot going on.
Yeah, a lot going on, yeah. Interesting, mate. Is there any sort of key things that you do to keep yourself straight and narrow? Is there anything you can pinpoint that you think, actually, this is what helps me sort of get back in then?
I don't think back then I was as aware of it. I think at that point in time, I I kind of got through it okay because I think I was a positive person, and I can't remember that actually being too much of a struggle.
Yeah.
But more recent times, I've had other stuff going on which like has been much more of a struggle, and I've had to learn much more how to cope, I suppose, and things that make me feel better and put me in a more positive place.
Okay, so I've gone off piste again. So what happened? How did you get yourself? You pivoted, and what did you do? And you got into franchising at this point.
Yeah, so we had 3 users of Astonish, all separately. I don't think they all knew they were using it. That all belonged to one really big franchise brand that we would all know. I won't say who it was, but I noticed on their emails they were all using completely different branding, like different logos, different colours, different fonts. And I didn't really know what franchising was to be honest, but I kind of had an idea. Like, I'd done a business degree, but I can't remember them ever going into franchising, but that's a whole other thing, isn't it? But I kind of noticed that I was like, this is crazy. Like, there's no brand control here. So we kind of saw there being an opportunity. So we developed a franchise element of Astonish because we saw actually we're not going to be able to compete head-to-head with MailChimp, but actually if we develop Astonish, so as a franchisor, you can create the email templates and lock down all the branding, and then franchisees can only edit certain areas and then send the emails out. That's a whole product for a sector that we didn't really know too much about. So I remember going on LinkedIn thinking, wow, I need to find franchisors, but also it'd be great to find a marketing company that work in franchising.
Do you have LinkedIn? Yeah.
yeah. I used to use it.
Go on.
So I wanted to find a marketing company. Found Coconut, essentially. So Sarah Carlisle, who's the founder of Coconut, I just messaged her on LinkedIn at the time when you didn't really get many messages on LinkedIn, probably. Just saying, like, I've got this product for the franchise market, etc. And she was really open to it. So I remember giving Sarah a demo, and Helen, who still works for Coconut, she was at Coconut at the time, and kind of cutting a long story short during that period, over the course of the next 2 years, lots went on, but essentially I became part of Coconut, Astonish became part of Coconut, Adam became part of Coconut, Paul became part of Coconut, and that's where it kind of, I suppose, Coconut's current structure came from. And that's how we saved Astonish at the time as well, because we were like, actually, if we carry on doing this, just trying to get one small business after another, it's not going to work. And we ended up doing some big deals where we would sign up one franchisor and get 150 users in one go. So that's how I got into franchising.
Fucking hell, it meant that, didn't it, mate? What a clever idea.
Yeah, it was good. And I think that's I think one thing that I've kind of learned is that from that, it was a horrific time, but you do kind of learn as long as you keep going. And there was probably times where I didn't want to keep going.
Yeah.
We all have those moments all the time, don't we? But I kind of know that as long as I always keep going, I'll find a way of keeping going, I suppose.
Mate, I use that sentence all the fucking time. Find a way.
Yeah.
You got to find. There's a way. There's always a way. I'm not gonna lie to you, mate. Like at the minute, it's a little bit tough for me. The business is doing okay, but I feel like we're a bit stagnated. But we'll find a way. And I say that, and then last night we got a phone call, got a discovery day tomorrow. So it's them glimmers, isn't it, mate? Yeah. I feel like, mate, you're the same as me. I hate that fucking badge, entrepreneurship. It feels like such an egotistical sentence sometimes, and I don't ever refer to myself as the boss or a leader or anything like that, but other people do. And I think that bit of work that you did, if you had to look up the word entrepreneurship, that is it, innit?
Yeah, probably. It didn't feel like it at the time.
No.
I don't class myself as an entrepreneur. Like, I'm the same as you. I just someone that likes business.
Yeah.
And probably am not employable. So,
100% not employable.
But looking back on it, it was creative. It was kind of clever. It pivoted us. I wouldn't like. It didn't go on to be a huge success doing what we did, but it got us into a place where we survived, I suppose. Which was cool.
It's smart, that, mate. It's so. I would love to unravel and ask you loads of questions about how Coconut was created and all that sort of stuff, but I'll leave it because it's an interesting one, isn't it?
Yeah, like we didn't found Coconut.
Yeah.
But we're kind of been part of the journey for the last 7 or 8 years. But Coconut's been going 20 years in the franchise sector.
I have to say, mate, I absolutely love working with you, and I'm not blowing smoke at your ass but me and Jem absolutely love working with you, and we've done meals and stuff like that. And it feels like a nice space. You know, Paul's good to work with, and Gutman.
And Paul. Thanks for saying that. And we love working with you guys. But I think Paul's actually. So the other thing I kind of realised on my journey is that I'm not. I think this is maybe where I'm not an entrepreneur, but I need other people. I'm good at lots of stuff that I'm good at, but I've got lots of blind points as well.
Yeah, but I think that's. But it is an entrepreneur because having that awareness and then skilling yourself up with other people is a you're a natural born leader, mate. You're a natural born leader. You just got it in. You just have people will follow you. I'd go to war. I'd rob a bank. My sentence, and my dad always used to say, "Would you rob a bank with them?" And I'd rob a bank with him because you need the trust element. You need everything to rob a bank cleverly. It's an interesting sentence, isn't it?
Yeah. I've never thought about that. But
well, if you were going to rob a bank, who would you rob a bank with? And you just got to think about it because you'd rob a bank with Paul, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I don't think he used to be a bank manager. Actually, he'd probably be a good
person. He'd be really good. But
he
if you think about it, if you're going to rob a bank, you think like, who can I trust? Who's going to think out? Who's not going to lose will? Who's not going to fucking shit themselves?
Yeah, and Paul's that guy. We fell into Coconut at the same time. Never met each other. The first time we ever met each other was in a car park, going to one of Coconut's clients, where we had to kind of go in and I literally met him in Coconut in the car park and was like, right, we're going into this client meeting, how are you doing? Like, went in there and then we went for a coffee after. And then we ended up becoming owners of Coconut over a period of time. But yeah, for me, he's, my wife calls him my work wife.
Yeah.
And I trust him. He's a massive calming influence. Like, I'm the kind of guy, probably like you, where you just have days where it feels like it's too much, but he's the guy where you ring up and he's just always positive. And where I'm a kind of the marketing creative type person, he's definitely the operation, keep everything going, writes a list type guy. That's what
we're Oz as well. Our mum, it's the end of the world, we're done. She's like, oh, just be quiet, get me some lunch. Like that. You need that though, don't you?
Definitely. And it's brilliant now. So I think, again, that's probably what I didn't have through that journey with Astonish, was someone like Paul, and you kind of need it. We do I don't know if you ever read the book Traction and EOS and come across
I've got it on the bookshelf, I'm not ready yet.
It's good. we kind of run it within Coconut, and part of Traction is you have a visionary and I've forgotten the word. It's not an implementer, but that kind of thing. So you have the kind of ideas person that's always got ideas, too many ideas, if anything, and then someone that can actually put those ideas to practice. And it works. It works really well for us.
That's exactly what we've got, actually. Without even thinking about it, that's what we've got.
I think every good business does. Because you just have to have those two different functions working. I don't think the kind of ideas person is ever going to be the person that can implement. They don't go hand in hand.
Or it's being bothered to do it. I come up with some sick ideas and make things, but then the people who do like, so I told you about. So one thing we've got at the minute is I was like, we've got some franchisees who've just started with us and they're trying to get them going, and obviously they come up straight away the usual objections that they get with the clients, and it's knowing that it's the business to be had. But so what we did is we've got Kay capturing the actual live footage. She can't go into clients, but she's literally in the videoing before the meeting, videoing after the meeting. All these got off before, so they're opening the boot of the car and sitting straight after the meeting in the car park, having a deload of the meeting live with the candidate, with the franchisee, so that if you're a franchisee watching it, you can go, this is the meeting, and we've also recorded the phone calls making the meeting, so you can literally see exactly how it's going. So it's capturing that information.
That's really cool.
But this is me. I came up with the idea, wanted to implement it, but there's no way I'm going to go and do it. Do you get what I mean? Because I wouldn't be as good as Ollie or Kay at doing it. And I think that's the bit, isn't it?
Every good business needs it, definitely. And I think that's for a lot of my years in business, I didn't have that. And you need that person to be someone you can trust, and like it. So the kind of structure of Coconut now and working with Paul is like perfect for me.
I always admire people who have, because I've always worked with my mum. I just don't know how I'd ever work with anyone else. I think I've got nothing but admiration for people who like create a team, different investors and all that side of things. That I never have. I've never had that learning, in that how to get other people invested and shareholdings and all that sort of stuff. It's interesting, isn't it, when it's set up?
Yeah, and again, I don't really know, but Paul's amazing at that stuff. So, that's a great thing. Like literally, we are the complete opposites, and that works really well.
We just talked a little bit about mental health, and I'm going to you correct me, but I'm going to get into something you might not want to talk about, but I'm going to try. Is when we first met, the first time we spoke, I can't remember exactly how it went down.
Yeah, I can completely remember it.
Go on.
I was thinking about it this morning, actually. So I think we'd been following each other on LinkedIn, and I suppose I need to go back a little bit, actually. So I was going through a period where my wife, probably 3 or 4 months before this, had been diagnosed with breast cancer.
Yeah.
And the prognosis at the time was really not particularly positive. And we just had our third child as well.
Yeah.
So it was like a real... And everyone was kind of coming out of COVID, so it was early 2021.
Yeah, it was.
We had Molly, our third child, in December, and then Crystal got diagnosed, I think, in February, and it was in the middle of a lockdown. It was just a crazy kind of situation. And I was still working, because you can't, as a business owner, you just can't switch off.
Yeah.
Like, Paul and the team were great. Like, I obviously was really open with them all, and they were like, look, just do whatever you need to do. And I couldn't work all the time, because I was taking Crystal to chemotherapy once a week, looking after Molly, our third child, doing the school runs and everything, as well as trying to do what you do in the business. And there were just days where, we talk about days where it just feels too much. Like, if you got that kind of cup, I was permanently
just boiling.
Yeah, I was boiling all the time, and the little things that can happen in your working day, which when you're feeling fine and you've got capacity to kind of think of those things, they were just spilling me over the top all the time. And I remember being in the office one day, and I must have been on LinkedIn. So it was the day I actually logged into LinkedIn, and I don't know. You might remember what it was, but you did a video. It might have been someone else's podcast, but you were really open about your journey and how you've kind of, I've seen you talk about it loads of times, but how the mental kind of things that you do and how you cope and all these different kind of things. And I watched it, and I remember being quite emotional watching it. I can't really remember someone talking this openly about it. And at the time, I was in despair, pretty much. Thinking back to it, I was
completely overwhelmed.
Yeah. And I think I just messaged you. It'd be good to go back on LinkedIn actually and see what I messaged you. But I just messaged saying, just watch your podcast, mate. Thanks so much for sharing. I must have said something like, I'm going through a really hard time at the moment as well, and it was cool to listen to what you said. And you just messaged back, send me your phone number. And I was like,
yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and I was like, I've never spoke to this guy before. So I sent you my phone number, and you literally rung straight away.
Yeah.
And I was like, and I'll never forget it, because when you're kind of going through that kind of thing, and it was much worse, my wife obviously, but just the byproduct of being part of that as well. When you're kind of going through that, and I don't think I ever knew, people don't really know what to say to you.
No.
And you don't really want people to say anything to you.
No.
But I kind of learnt that quite early on. Even really close friends, some people didn't even kind of message or say anything, because they just, and that's fine, you actually don't mind, because you realise it's really hard.
Yeah.
But I remember you just were like, tell me what's going on there, mate. So I told you everything. There was a few other things going on as well, which kind of compounded it. And you were just like, fucking hell, mate, that is seriously shit. How are you were just like, how are you surviving? And I was like, oh, yeah, thanks, mate. Because everyone else says to you, it might be okay. You know, hope it'll be all right.
It'll be okay.
Oh, I'm really sorry to hear that and stuff like that, which is fine. I didn't have a problem.
Yeah,
people
no one has a manual, do you see?
No, but I never spoke to you before, and you were like, fucking hell, mate, that is some serious shit. It made me feel better though, because I was like, oh right, someone else thinks this is serious shit.
Yeah. Well, it's that analogy I've told you about. I've told you about the boat in the freezing cold water. Have you ever heard it before? I can't remember who told it me, but ever since I've heard it, it's like, if you were on a raft, mate, in the middle of the night in a boat, and you crashed into a rock, and it was fucking pitch black, and you went into the water, it's freezing cold, and you're on this plank of wood, it'd be pretty fucking bad, wouldn't it, mate? Yeah. But if you did it with me, it just wouldn't be as bad.
No.
If you're with someone else. And I feel like that's what it happened, isn't it? When someone says, mate, it is fucking shit, that. And it was, mate. He just had a kid. He missed, got breast cancer and in lockdown. It's pretty, I don't really know much.
That's actually what you said. It was.
Yeah.
And you were great. You were just like, look, have you ever tried breath work? And I was like, no, I haven't. Yeah. And you put me in Kay's Facebook group, and I started doing some of the breath work things there. And then I downloaded the Wim Hof app, and I started doing it. And at the time, it felt like it made a massive difference.
Yeah, it will have done.
But I think it was purely because I was actually starting to do something which was it was like a step of trying to help myself, if that makes sense, rather than just being like so consumed with everything. So yeah, that's how we met. And then you were great. Like you rung me like 3 or 4 times a week, just checking in.
Yeah.
And again, it was great because everyone else was like, oh, it's going to be okay. It's going to. You was like, fuck, mate, this is awful. Like,
so do you know where that stems from? So my mum still gets upset by it now. When my dad got cancer, I feel like some people. This is hard. And it's probably a too big or overarching thing, but I feel like people just don't know how to deal with people when they're poorly, especially with cancer. And they either give it a wide berth because they think you want to be on your own, or they come and get involved and say the wrong thing. And like. It's like when I tell people I found Tom dead at the bottom of the stairs, everyone just doesn't know what to say because it's just literally, what the fuck do you say to that?
Yeah.
So it's the same thing with you. It's like, what do you say to that? Is there's no positive outcome? And I think sometimes when you've been through it, it gives you better ammunition. And I feel like that's why I had a little bit of an unfair advantage over some people, because I've been through it myself.
Yeah.
And I feel like sometimes you just want, as a man especially as well, when you've got an ego into testosterone, you just want someone to sort of cut the bullshit. Can you help me survive? Let's not talk about it, because you don't necessarily want to talk about, are you going to fix it? Just fix it.
Yeah.
And I think that's...
And it was that kind of time for us because we had 3 young kids.
Yeah.
And Chris was going through chemo, and the kids obviously know. Like we got some amazing advice during the whole thing through like Macmillan and the charities and stuff, and it like we involved them in it. So we took them to the first ever chemo that she had, and then like she's literally being poisoned and coming out, and they're in the car picking her up, and so we learned not to hide anything from them. They shaved her head when her hair was falling out, and all of that kind of stuff. So we would. Did
you shave yours?
Yeah, that's why I did it. I used to have a mullet before. But it was it was a crazy period, and I think for us we were just like the only thing that well, no, it's not, obviously in the scheme of things it wasn't the only thing, but the thing we focused on was like, let's just make sure the kids are okay, because that's the first reaction. It's like 2 of them one was probably 9, one was 6, so they're old enough to know something's going on, and it's like, well, we just need to focus to make sure that they're okay. And it was a crazy period, really. And then working on top of it was hard, but
you're through it now, though.
Yeah. And it kind of it's a weird thing. Yeah, so I should say, for anyone kind of watching, I should round that off. But yeah, Crystal, although they don't she had like a really kind of serious case of it, but she went through a year's worth of chemo, and then a big operation, and then a bit more chemo. And as far as they know, like they don't ever kind of give you the all clear, but she actually got her annual first year checkup.
Oh, great.
In a couple of weeks. So, but the weird thing about that, and it, like, obviously that's good, there's a really good ending to that story. And for everyone else, like, when she kind of got the all clear, it's like, wow, that's great. Like, it's brilliant. But our world kind of got smashed apart, and then it doesn't just fit back together. Yeah. It's kind of hard to explain, really. But I think it doesn't kind of feel completely, like, mentally not quite
go
over
for a
it.
lot, mate, don't you?
Yeah.
Go for a lot. I mean, just having 3 young kids is tough enough. Like, I've got 2 young kids, and no one ever prepares you for that shit, mate. It breaks you.
It does, yeah.
It breaks you. So having 3 and then all that on top of it, like it.
And I definitely had periods through it where, and I'm quite happy to share this because actually, because I heard your story and then you helped me. Like, if anyone is listening to this and is going for anything like it, I would love to do the same kind of thing back. But I probably halfway through it, I don't know what classes as an actual breakdown, or when everything actually does come too much and you start, like, the cracks start appearing.
Yeah.
I think I can't really remember the timeline, but there was a period where it just did. Like, I actually got to the point where I wasn't particularly, I didn't even have the emotional energy to support Crystal as much as I could. And I remember ringing up Macmillan, and they had advice lines, and I was just trying to do anything to, like, find some advice or to feel better. I remember calling my doctor. My doctor was great, actually, and she was like, I don't know what, like, I just feel, I don't know if I need medication, or she was like, and she was the same. She was like, no, you're just going through a hell of a lot of shit. And it's like, okay. So it definitely got to the point where I did break during that kind of period. And I think when that happens, you don't just kind of fall back in, do you? And I was always someone who would be that kind of guy that people would turn to if they were going through stuff. But I just didn't have any emotion left in me. So, like, if people had issues, I just couldn't help them. I didn't have enough to give back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no,
but I feel now like even kind of a couple of years on, I'm starting to get back to that, which is good.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, crazy period.
Yeah, it's fucking hell, mate. I'm grateful that we got to meet on that period of time as well, because it was because you always get some back from it, helping other people as well at the same time, and I think we created a good relationship. And then I think it was short time after, it must have been that year we met, because I said I'm not a massive fan of like meeting up with loads of new places, and that we met up for lunch, didn't we?
Yeah. Before the BFA conference.
Yeah, BFA conference.
Yeah, you weren't going to go.
Yeah, I wasn't going to go because I just felt like I couldn't go. And then we met up. It was nice. Thanks, I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, I really wanted to meet you and kind of thank you for that period as well. And the fact you weren't going to go, I was like, well, look, just come up the day before, we'll have lunch, and then by the time you're there, and that was cool.
If you're going to be a franchisor and you're going to start marketing your business, what would be the best way of doing it, and what would you say would be the best way to attempt to do it? I know you're going to say use coconut.
No, I wouldn't say that.
But what would you say if someone was going to try and start marketing their business? What would you say?
Brand new franchisor.
Yeah, brand new franchisor. How would you say they would do best?
So actually, we fortunately I speak to probably 2 or 3 people like this a month actually, and one of the first things I say to them is, don't use coconut. Actually, because at that very early stage, before someone's recruited a franchisee, they don't actually know what they want from a franchisee. Like, what's that person going to be like? Like, what are their pain points? What kind of profile? Who's this going to work for? I think the very first initial franchisees tend to be fairly organic, if that makes sense. So someone starts a franchise, then, I don't know, a friend or a customer or someone in a neighbouring territory who's heard about it, become the first franchisee, and then the first 3 or 4 are kind of organic.
Yeah.
And that learning phase of the franchisor, I think, in the first 2 or 3 franchisees then shapes what then could go on to become the marketing. But I think it's almost impossible to market for franchisees before you know who you're trying to market to. It's really hard. So when I talk to franchisors in that space, I'm more like, well, actually, you probably know your first franchisee. There's a good chance if you don't know them, they know you. And you just need to try and make everyone aware that you're a franchise and a business opportunity, and just find that first one and trying to grow it organically in that kind of way.
It gives you the foundation of what, I guess you need some information from that, don't you, to start the marketing campaign, because it kind of you don't know where you want to go, do you really?
No, I mean, we have done projects like at that kind of stage, but yeah, I think that's really important. And the franchisor learns all of those things which you all know about. You can meet someone, you go, I know that person will be a good franchisee, or I'm a bit cautious here because I don't know if they've got this type of personality trait or whatever it is. But until you actually go through the process, you can't possibly know those things. Then once you start knowing that, I think then the most important thing is really understanding exactly who these people are. And I don't mean in terms of like age and demographics and what newspaper they read and that kind of stuff, but more what are the pain points in their life, like, because everyone has a pain point in their life to make them look to invest in a franchise. And that pain point's far more important than your training, the franchise fee, the returns they can get. So the marketing has to overcome the pain point. That's the absolute key, I think, to franchise marketing.
Mate, great response. I kind of wanted to get that question out there because I'm going to just say it, I'm not asked. The podcast is great and it's growing and it's really getting a good audience, but I also want to take some clips from each podcast for information that people potentially might be looking for.
Yeah. And
it will drag people towards each podcast, because there's some, mate, like your fucking story it's so interesting to hear how people get in franchising, and like people like you, mate, are so important in this franchising space, because you know so much about franchising now, the back end of how a lot of franchise networks, I don't know how many clients Coconut's got, but there'll be a lot, and you'll have met so many people, and the people like you are the fundamental foundations of UK franchising. It's fucking fact, mate. It sounds like a big title, that, but
it does.
But mate, it really is true. Like, because when I met you, I've had some pretty deep conversations with you about franchising, the foundations of it, the rules, who's involved, what not to look for, what looks for. People like you are the people that, if someone's going to come into franchise, need to have them conversations with. because who else, like that's how it's all going to be organically built, isn't it? Franchising in the UK is only small comparison to some franchising across the world, and if we don't have people like you in the franchise industry being able to talk about it, and people don't know who you are, and people like, if I was thinking about franchising my business first, the only way I learn is by talking to people. I can't read, I can't watch, I haven't got the attention span. I do it when I'm having conversations. And if I can create this podcast and create clips from the podcast that eventually end up leading to people getting to talk to you because they want to franchise their business, then I feel like I've done my job.
Yeah. I think we're really lucky in the sector that there is an amazing community of suppliers to the sector. Yeah. And what's really nice about it is that the franchisors and suppliers network together. It's not like, I actually don't know, but I expect there's some sectors where the suppliers, it can be quite salesy. So, there's suppliers to the sector, and whatever event you go to, they're just trying to sell what they do. And I don't feel like franchising is like that at all. No. I think the suppliers and franchisors all work together as a community.
Again, it's another buzzword, but the franchising industry per se is pretty kind and pretty empathetic, isn't it?
Yeah, massively.
Yeah, it's like pretty much like a really safe space to have your business. You can talk to a direct competitor and they both help each other. Yeah,
and I think that's because the very nature of being a franchisor is you want to help other people be successful. Yeah. Because that is the nature of a franchisor, isn't it? And so franchisors it's in their nature to be collaborative.
Yeah. And the other thing is, the person buying the franchise dictates who they buy from anyway. You kind of, as a franchisor, want them to pick you as well at the same time. Yep. You don't necessarily want that. You want to grab that person and make them work with you, because if they don't want to work with you, you want them to find their own thing as well at the same time. So as a franchisor to franchisor, you're kind of not bothered.
Yeah.
Recently, we're just about to do business with a new franchise partner, and I know categorically they've spoken to the franchise, and we just had a really nice conversation about them. Because that's who they picked. It's not like we're better than you, it's just that's who they picked. As a franchisee who's recently bought another franchisee from a direct competitor of us, and we just felt they weren't right for us. They're not bad people, they're not toxic or anything like that. We just decided they're not for Tezlom. They've gone for this other franchise, and to be honest with you, they kind of suit the brand better than us. Yep. So that's why you kind of don't have that hostile competitiveness, I think.
Yeah.
In the recruitment industry per se, there's CRMs and payroll companies and all sorts of different stuff, and they're all just trying to tell you who's the best. So I kind of see that competitive. I wouldn't like that environment. I guess that's what you're alluding to.
Yeah, it's not like, I went to an EWIF event yesterday and there were 16 people there, and I would say half the room were suppliers and half were franchisors, but that wasn't in any way a negative. Like it was really collaborative, and everyone was there to help. No one would have tried a sales pitch or anything like that. And I think it is a really nice community. Well, that's why people get, I was about to say stuck, it's the wrong thing to say, but once they get into franchising, they tend to spend their whole career in franchising, don't they? Yeah. How many people do we know that have worked for multiple brands and have just worked in it for years? And once you're in the sector, I think it's really hard to get out because it's such a nice community.
Okay, last bit of the podcast. What's next for you, mate? What's your next move with Coconut, and what's the next move with the other bits and pieces you've got going? Have you got any future plans, or?
Yeah, there's kind of short and long answers to that, really. But I think for me, I suppose that like the journey, like talking about some of the different things like I've done, I always had this goal of being a business owner, and naively as a 12-year-old, my idea of that was like building an empire and selling an empire. And that's kind of the journey, I suppose, I ended up going on with Astonish. And because that didn't work, that whole kind of goal and aim that you've had, the way to get unhappy, isn't it, and having some goal that you're miles away from and no clear path of how you're going to get 100%. There, essentially. So I think I've spent like the last period, like 5 or 6 years, just completely reevaluating actually, like what are my goals, like what are important to me. And they're completely different than obviously it would be when you're a 12-year-old, but it's taken me a long time to get to that. I think for a long time I was like, well, actually, no, my journey is like, this is what I want to achieve. And I've got, and I think I've, over the last few years, just reevaluated really what's important to me. And I think, that's the journey I'm on now. So
how did you feel, you've got, how big's the team? With Coconut, it's a bit of an, it's such an unusual space, I think, coconut, from outsider's perspective, about how it's built out. Can you ever think of any pain points or pinch points from growing a team? Because that must be an interesting space, like growing a team there at Coconut. But the team's quite a nice team, though, isn't it? And you're all quite mature and you're all quite heavily invested, aren't you? So it's a...
Yeah, we've got an amazing team, and actually some of the team outdate Paul and I.
Yeah.
Coconut must be a bit like franchising. People kind of get into it and then
they
stick around.
Yeah.
But we're really lucky in that terms. We've got a great team that a lot of them have been with us now for a number of years.
Yeah.
We just got 3 new starters actually coming on, which is kind of new for us actually. We've never had that many new people coming into the business at one time. So we've got a training next week where we're all going to be together and like the whole team, which would be really cool. Yeah. But I don't know, you said earlier on that you see me as a leader. I don't see myself as a leader at all. And probably it's something I need to work on over time. But
do you ever do much self-reflection work like that, mate?
A little bit. I think I'm really self-aware. Yeah. Like I know what I'm good at, not what I'm not good at. And I'm really open to, like I would tell the team, like I'm not good at this. I'm not worried about...
Well, that's a sign of a good leader, isn't it? That's the thing. It's hard to name yourself a good leader. I'm the same. As like I feel like the phrase is I'm practicing.
Yeah.
And I think you're the same. Is I'm practicing.
Yeah.
I'm practicing. I feel like that is the only way to do. If you had to describe yourself as a leader, but like I'm practicing to be a good leader. I'm trying my hardest every day, being aware, being open, taking on new things, and just working on the things you're good at. And I think that's the key, isn't it, mate? That'd be interesting, that taking 3 new team members at the same time. That'd be some interesting stuff.
Yeah, and actually, like some of the things you spoke about earlier about working remotely and all these different kind of things come into it, and that's why. So we're actually spread out around the country as well, because Paul lives in Derby, so I live 3-hour drive away from Paul.
Mate, what is it around your neck? There's quite a lot of people live around your neck of the woods, aren't there?
You said this to me before, and I always think there's more people in franchising around here than there is down where I am, but. Is there a lot of people in Hampshire?
Yeah, there wasn't like Sean Goldsmith not doing that.
Yeah, so Sean lives just up the road.
Yeah,
from me.
There's like a few people live.
Carl lives pretty
that's
local.
What I mean. There's like quite a few people knocking around that neck of the woods.
Yeah, there's not many franchise brands that are based there.
No.
But there's probably a few people that kind of
there's
live
quite
around.
a few big brands up here, isn't there?
Yeah.
At home instead and right at home.
Yeah.
So, all right, mate. I feel like I've got everything I need out of this podcast. I'm going to get you back on.
Cool.
Thanks for sharing your story, mate.
No, thank you.
And let me just cut that. Can you see what I did with that conversation? I felt like I just wanted to capture what you would get some information for, because I do believe that. I'm not blowing smoke at your ass. The franchise industry needs this podcast and other podcasts to see what it's like and what people go through and how it's grown and how things are created.
No, definitely. I think what you're doing is great. I've listened to all the episodes now, and I think what's kind of I listen to a lot of podcasts. I suppose the format's not too dissimilar to something like Diary of a CEO, but it's much more impactful when you actually know those people. If that makes sense.
Well, that's it, because the reason why Diary is so impactful is because you do know every guest. Yeah. And some guests you might just see on social media and it's intrigued you, or some you'll definitely know who they are and you want to see it. So this is nowhere near like that. But I feel like if you were searching for Coconut Creative and they found you and watched this podcast, the chances of them doing business with you are definitely going to be higher, because they relate to you on a personal level. And I think that's the key to it, isn't it? Is getting to know people who are the fundamental founders or leaders in the industry, who have foundations work in the franchise industry, getting to know each other, because none of us are naturally going to tell our story and how we got there and how it all happened. It just doesn't naturally happen like that, because what you're always doing is selling coconut as a product, aren't you?
Yeah. Well, what I naturally do, I'm not very good at social media, is probably what you would say, but I'm happy talking. I'll do as many videos as possible about talking about marketing and franchising and all those kind of things, but I've never done anything like that, talking about personal stuff. I don't know why. I think some people are just, I don't know.
It's like, I did one with Dan the other day, and it's like, maybe we should talk a little bit about that, but like the fundamentals of running a business, having 3 kids. Yeah. Mate, that's a mind-boggle in its own, having 3 kids, and you work away sometimes, like being away now and you're missing with 3 kids.
Yeah.
She must be blowing your head up, like she must be like losing her mind.
Yeah. Well, this is part of actually resetting my goals, which I was saying is that, you know, what you think of as a 12, 18-year-old, 20-year-old of what you're trying to achieve. I had that goal and then it didn't quite materialise. But actually, unless you reset the destination, which I hadn't for years, that's where the unhappiness comes in, isn't it? Because I was like, well, actually, no, I've set out to this thing and I'm not doing it. And then suddenly I've got a family and like not as much time. So I've kind of reset now, and my goals now are very much aligned around spending as much time as possible with the kids. Yeah. Like I'm much more focused now on being a good dad than trying to build an empire, if that makes sense. Yeah. That's much more important to me. So I think it took me a few years to actually reconfigure what I actually wanted, if that makes sense.
I literally said it in Dan's the other day. I still don't know what it is to be a good dad. In terms of, I think someone messaged me the other day. He's not related to franchising, but I've got a relationship through LinkedIn, and he said he spoke to his wife about it, and she's like, time spent with the kids is the most valuable thing you can do. But I kind of have to interject and say, there's a fine, like a bit of a grey area for me. I feel like being the most important things is important. Like, unfortunately, I missed it this morning, being the parents' evening for my little boy. But yesterday I went to his graduation, my other little boy's graduation from nursery. And I feel like those bits are mega important, trying to be there for those bits. And some dads can't do that, unfortunately. They might be in the army, or they might, unfortunately can't do that. But I still appreciate them, because at the end of the day, they're just trying to do their part of being a good dad, isn't it? And I think it's drilling it back and saying, what's important to me? How can I do this? And there's going to be some sacrifices along the way, isn't there? And I think...
Yeah, I'm not sure the answer is time, actually.
What do you think?
I think it's being present. Yeah. It's more important than time. I think we, especially as business owners, you can get home from work and you've had a bad day and you're there, so you're spending time, but you're not really there.
Yeah.
Like they might want to, I don't know, they're jumping all over you, and you've had a bad day and you're like, oh, stop jumping all over me. Whereas at the weekend when you were present, you're happy for them to jump all. So I think it is time, but it's the being present time.
Yeah.
Because I think most busy parents will have time where you're not present at home. I think that's the most important thing. Then I think as they get older, so my son's 12 now, and I think that's when you can start knowing how you're doing a bit more, because he's 12 and he's shaping into like a young person, and you can see the personality more, and I suppose he probably feeds back a little bit more as well, if that makes sense. So I think as they get older, you kind of work out how you're doing and what you've done, and kind of evaluate it a bit more, I suppose.
Well, you can't get away with the being on the phone or sending an email or text message so much, because they're getting a bit more... Like, Jackson's been a bit like that. He's 7 now. He's like, put your phone down, come and do this with me. I'm like, right, okay. Do you know, they call you out, don't they, a little bit on it? So, maybe...
Well, he's got a phone, and he's got a 2-hour time limit every day. So once he's been on for 2 hours, it just switches off.
Right.
So we can't, as parents, put a 2-hour time limit and then just sit there on our phones.
Yeah.
So, But I think it's being present. I think you're right, like being at as many landmarks for them and stuff like that. But yeah, it's not just time. I think I've spent plenty of time with them in the past where I haven't been present, and I don't think that's valuable.
No. I'm definitely working on that myself, to be honest with you. I seem to spend a lot more time with Logan than I do Jackson, so I'm going to take Jackson to the cinema and just trying to work on that. I think, again, though, it's just a practice, innit, mate?
Yeah.
I don't think it's the same as leadership. It's just, you're never going to get it right, are you? You just got to, as long as you're aware, and I think if you just try your hardest, I think that is being a good dad, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, I kind of realised that these crazy goals that I had as a 12-year-old, I don't know if I was 12 or not, but as a kid of growing an empire, I kind of that doesn't work with them being present as a dad.
No.
And that's why I've had to reevaluate everything, because actually that's not as important to me.
No.
And I know plenty of very successful people who I've worked with and stuff for the years that that's their relationship side of their life is a mess and has been along the way destroyed because of this goal that they've had, kind of thing. Yeah. And I've kind of realised that's not
what you want.
No.
I think there is a happy medium. I think you can find.
Yeah.
I think you can find a happy medium, can't you?
I'm still as ambitious, but it's just a different type of thing. Like, to me now, when I leave the office on a Friday, I don't want to think about work again until typically Sunday evenings. I like then planning out my thing, but the weekends I just will not think about work.
I guess when I reflect on me, I think I'm pretty good at it, to be honest with you. Like, I like to think that I do, but I do put my phone in my pocket and I'll go for a big walk on the beach, or I'll go up Ridley Pike, or I'll do something. But sometimes I just can't help it with our sector. People ring and text, and it's 24 hours, 7 days a week, our business, so sometimes that does come in, but it doesn't happen often. I wouldn't sit in front of a PC and write big emails or anything like that. You know, I might respond to a couple of text messages or emails. I think the answer to the statement, am I being a good dad, is just that awareness. As long as you've got the awareness, I think you're all right, aren't you?
Yeah, and I think the presence bit. So we went to Australia for Christmas. We were there for 3.5 weeks. My wife's Australian, so visiting family. And I just, Christmas is a good time for us to quieten down because everyone else is kind of off. Yeah. So I just took the opportunity to not, in fact, when we stayed with her mum, she didn't even have the internet. Yeah. So I for 3.5 weeks, I was just completely off the grid. Yeah. And I came back and I felt like a different person. Like, it was almost like you just got all this bandwidth back, and then you get in the day-to-day and it kind of goes again quite quickly. Yeah, but I realised then that I think everyone does need a period of time where they just, it might not even be a long time, but they do switch off.
Yeah. It's funny, innit? I went on holiday, I fucking hated it.
Yeah, I was about to say, I saw a post where you said you didn't like holiday.
I don't know. I'm in a different space at the minute. I feel like I need little bits, chunks every week. I feel like I need space that way. But I think it's because fundamentally I'm not where I want to be with business at the minute. So I'm still fighting this corner a little bit at the minute. So when I do have that time off, I just feel like it's wasted because my appetite for growth is still there and I can't press pause.
Yeah, I completely relate to that. And I think somehow you've just got to condition yourself to try and enjoy the journey. So you know what the goal is, you know where you are, and there's an in-between, and that in-between is the unhappiness, isn't it? Yeah. Not just in work, that's in, I forget, I think I saw Tony Robbins talking about this or something, but like, you can put all your areas of life, and if you've got a vision of where you want to be, you are where you are, and if until you kind of get closer to it, there is always going to be some friction and unhappiness. Yeah. And I just think you've got to try and enjoy the journey a little bit. But I've kind of realised that if I keep just going, in the end, I break. I not like completely, but I'll have like a burnout type thing. So I need periods of switching off.
You're right, probably right.
I'm going on holiday in a couple of weeks, and I'm going to try my best to just turn the phone off. There's nothing that can happen which is going to be that disastrous. I find for 2 or 3 days, I find it really hard. Like, there's always that temptation to get your phone and check your emails. And I find after about 2 days, I get to the point where I'm like, I'm definitely not going to look at it. I'm loving it. I'm just not going to. But it does take a little while to...
Yeah. See, I've cancelled going on holiday this time. They're going on holiday again with the wife and the kids, and I just need to... I feel like I will get back to that space, and I have been in that space before. I'll be honest with you, I have been on holidays before, and I have been able to put the phone down. I have chilled out. I remember specifically saying I feel invigorated, but I think right now my headspace and the mindset at the minute is I can't do that right now, and I'll probably get there next year. I've just got this chunk of work to do, and once I've done it, I'll be better, I think.
Yeah, which is fair enough. Like, I think that's the stages of people going through business, I suppose, as long as you're looking after yourself during that period as well. Like, holidays are not... They don't have to be the thing which
makes you chill out.
No, it shouldn't. They shouldn't be the thing that.
Well,
make you chill
I went
out.
for a walk on Saturday. Went for a walk on Sunday. I've been doing cold water therapy, and I've been doing my gym. I'm still okay, you know. Like, it's okay. I'll just again set it on. So no. Okay, I think we've covered it all, mate.
Good stuff.
Thanks very much for joining me.
No, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thanks for coming on.